he's facing Israel. Could this be another example of an alien visitation and proof that prehistoric aircraft existed?
In the story of Ezekiel's throne chariot, this flying vehicle that doesn't seem to have any means of propulsion, if we thought of the word angel as representing something like celestial energy, it sounds much more like a spacecraft then, because some of the angels are going back and forth. Well, that sounds like flames. That sounds like propulsion. Some of them are wheel-like. Well, those sound like flying saucers.
Our ancestors weren't idiots. Ezekiel saw something that was so frightening to him that he fell to his knees. Then, out of the glory of God came this being in these bright clothes that looked like metal and told Ezekiel, "All right, man, we brought you here. We want you to measure this monument, this building." And Ezekiel asks, "Well, why should I do this?" And the being says, "That's why we brought you here." And then you have 40 pages in the second part of the book of Ezekiel with measurement after measurement after measurement of this gigantic building, in which, by the way, the glory of the Lord landed.
In the early 1970s, NASA scientist Joseph Blumrich set out to disprove the theory that what Ezekiel witnessed was a spaceship.
Joseph Blumrich is your proverbial rocket scientist. He worked on the moon project for NASA, and from the mind of a rocket engineer, started to look at what was written in the first part of the book of Ezekiel, and after many months of research, Joseph Blumrich came to the conclusion that what Ezekiel described in his eyewitness report, it was indeed a type of spacecraft.
Joseph Blumrich would go on to write The Spaceships of Ezekiel. Several years later, a German structural engineer named Hans Herbert Bayer sketched out a blueprint of the second section of the book of Ezekiel, where Ezekiel is told to construct an open-top building to house the flying chariot.
Ezekiel's spaceship fit exactly into the temple that Hans Herbert Bayer recreated. So what we have here is a proof by indication. Here we have a NASA engineer and a structural engineer. They didn't know of each other's work, and both pieces fit together like a puzzle. In any court of law, that's evidence that would hold up.
I think that scientists feel uncomfortable with the notion of the lost civilization precisely because the evidence for it is so ambiguous. It's not so in your face that it's immediately obvious. And the result is that science has not welcomed this idea.